Hansel and Gretel. Level 2. Chapter 1. The Stepmother's Plan. There was a woodcutter. He lived with his wife and 2 children. The boy's name was Hansel, and the girl's name was Gretel. They were poor, but they were a happy family. But one day, the wife died of illness. 1 year later, the woodcutter had a new wife, but this new wife was selfish and greedy. Life was difficult. Sometimes the woodcutter didn't get any money, and they had very little to eat. They were often hungry. One day, the wife told the woodcutter, "I can't take this anymore. I have an idea. Tomorrow, we will take the children to the forest, and we will leave them in the forest." Comprehensive questions. How many children did the woodcutter have? 2. He had 2 children, Hansel and Gretel. Were they rich? No, they weren't. They were poor. What happened after the wife died of illness? The woodcutter had a new wife 1 year later. Was the new wife a good wife? No, she wasn't. She was selfish and greedy. What idea did the new wife have? She wanted to take the children into the forest and leave them there. No, wife, I cannot do that. The forest is dangerous. They will die, said the woodcutter. If you don't do that, we will all die, said the evil wife. But, wife... No buts. It's decided then. Tomorrow morning we will take them to the forest, said the wife. However, they didn't know that the children weren't sleeping because they were too hungry, and they had heard everything they said. Gretel started to cry. Shh! Hansel told her to be quiet. Don't be afraid, he whispered. I will think of something. They waited for their parents to go to sleep, and then Hansel went quietly out of bed. He took a lot of marbles and put them in his pocket. Was it dangerous in the forest? Yes, it was. It was dangerous in the forest. What did Gretel do after she knew about the stepmother's plan? She cried. What did Hansel do after he knew about the stepmother's plan? He waited for his parents to go to sleep. Then he went out and took a lot of marbles. Chapter 2. Hansel's Intelligence. The next morning, the stepmother woke the children up. Wake up, you lazy children! Today we'll go to the forest to cut wood, said the mother. She gave each of them a piece of bread, and they all set off into the forest. When they were going, every now and then Hansel took out a marble from his pocket and dropped it on the road. 2 hours later, they got to the middle of the forest. The woodcutter told Hansel and Gretel to collect the wood. You two collect the wood here. We will go over there and we'll come back to you soon. So Hansel and Gretel collected some wood, and when they got tired, they lay down to sleep. What did the stepmother give to the children before they went to the forest? A piece of bread. She gave each of them a piece of bread. What did Hansel do when they were going to the forest? He took out the marbles and dropped them on the road. What did their father told them to do in the forest? He told them to collect some wood. When they woke up, it was night. Gretel was afraid and began to cry. Oh, Hansel, how can we get out of this forest? Hansel was not afraid. He said, Don't worry, Gretel. I know how to get home. Later, when the moon rises, the marbles will shine and we can go home. Now, let's sit down and eat the bread. Later, when the moon rose, the marbles that Hansel dropped during the day shone. Hansel and Gretel followed the marbles home. When they got home, the stepmother was very surprised. When night came, was Gretel afraid? Yes, she was. Gretel was afraid. Was Hansel afraid? No, he wasn't. Hansel wasn't afraid. Chapter 3. The Dark Forest. Not long after that, the wife said to the woodcutter, We are out of rice, out of bread, out of everything. We must get rid of the children, or you and I will die of hunger. We'll do that tomorrow. Again, the children heard this, and this time Hansel got worried because he didn't have any more marbles. But he stayed calm. He didn't want to worry his sister. Don't cry, Gretel. Everything will be all right. God will help us. Early the next morning, the wife pulled the children out of bed, gave each of them a piece of bread like before, and told them to go to the forest with them. On the way, Hansel broke the bread into small pieces in his pocket, and from time to time he dropped a piece of bread on the road. Did Hansel get more marbles the second time they went into the forest? No, he didn't. He didn't get any more marbles. What did Hansel tell Gretel? He told her not to cry, and everything would be all right. What did Hansel drop on the road when they went to the forest this time? Pieces of bread. He dropped pieces of bread on the road this time. This time, their stepmother took them deeper into the forest and told them to look for wood. Then the woodcutter and the wife went home. After a while, the children went to sleep and woke up at night again. Gretel shared his bread with Hansel, and they tried to follow the pieces of bread to go home. But they didn't find any bread. The birds had eaten all the bread. Hansel and Gretel tried to find a way out of the forest, but they could not. They were lost in a dark forest. Hansel found some wild berries to eat in the forest. They slept for the night and tried to get out of the forest again the next morning. Why didn't Hansel and Gretel find any bread to follow home? Because the birds had eaten all the bread. Were they lost in the forest? Yes, they were. They were lost in the forest. What did Hansel find in the forest? Some wild berries. Hansel found some wild berries in the forest. Chapter 4. The Witch. The next morning, when they were walking around, they saw a little house. The children were very tired, but they ran to the house. To their surprise, all of the house were made of food. The wall was made of bread, the roof was cake, and the window was sweet sugar. Hansel took a piece of the roof, a piece of the wall, and some sugar from the window. "We will eat some of this," he said. When they were eating their delicious meal, they heard a thin voice. "Who's there? Who's eating my house?" Hansel and Gretel looked up. They saw an old, ugly woman. Gretel was scared. What did they see the next morning? A little house. They saw a little house the next morning. What was the house made of? Food. The house was made of food. Did Hansel and Gretel eat some pieces of the house? Yes, they did. They ate some pieces of the house. What happened when they were eating? They saw an old, ugly woman. "We are sorry, we were too hungry, and your house is very delicious," Hansel said quickly. "Oh, yes, you poor children. But don't eat my house. Come in, and I will give you something to eat," replied the old woman. The innocent children didn't know that the old woman was a witch, and the witch liked to eat children more than anything in the world. When they were inside the house, the witch took Hansel by the hand and locked him up in a cage. She ordered Gretel to work for her, or she would kill Hansel. Gretel cried, but she agreed to work in the house. What did the old woman tell Hansel and Gretel? She told them to go inside, and she would give them something to eat. Who was the old woman? A witch. The old woman was a bad witch who liked to eat children. What happened to Hansel inside the house? The witch locked him up in a cage. What happened to Gretel inside the house? The witch ordered her to work for her. Chapter 5. Gretel's Cleverness. The next morning, the witch asked Gretel, "Girl, is your brother fat or thin?" Gretel waited for a few seconds, and she asked, "Why do you ask? You can see for yourself." "I have very bad eyes. I can't see clearly, and I want to eat him when he is fat. He will be more delicious when he is fat." "Then you have to give him a lot of food. Our parents left us in the forest because we were poor and we did not have anything to eat. He is very thin now," said Gretel. What did the witch ask Gretel the next morning? The witch asked her, "Is your brother fat or thin?" Did the witch want to eat Hansel when he was fat or when he was thin? When he was fat, the witch wanted to eat him when he was fat. What did Gretel tell the witch to give Hansel? A lot of food. Gretel told the witch to give Hansel a lot of food. So, every day, the witch gave Hansel a lot of food to eat to fatten him up. And every day, the witch told Hansel to show her his finger. The witch touched his finger to see if he was fat enough. But every time, Hansel would just hold down a little bone, and the witch thought he was still too skinny. 4 weeks later, the witch became impatient. He couldn't wait any longer. The witch shouted to Gretel, "I will eat him today. I don't care if he is fat or thin. You, Gretel, go and boil water in a big pot. I will boil him." Gretel was very frightened, but she tried to calm down. She went and boiled the water in a big pot. When she waited for the water to boil, she thought of a way to save his brother. Why did the witch want to touch Hansel's finger every day? She wanted to see if Hansel was fat enough. Did Hansel hold down his finger? No, he didn't. He held down a thin piece of bone every time. What happened 4 weeks later? The witch got impatient and wanted to eat Hansel. What did the witch tell Gretel to do? The witch told Gretel to go and boil water in a big pot. Is the water ready yet? The evil witch asked. I don't know. Can you check if it's ready? Gretel replied.
The water is ready when there are bubbles. Is it bubbling?
The witch asked. I don't know what bubbling is.
You stupid girl! Get away! I will see for myself.
The witch yelled, and with bad eyes, the witch had to lean very close to the water in order to see. Gretel gave her a big push, and the witch fell into the boiling water. She screamed and died. Why did the witch lean very close to the water to see if it was boiling? Because she had very bad eyes. What did Gretel do to the witch? She pushed her into the boiling water. Did the witch die? Yes, she did. The witch died. Chapter 6. Home Again. Gretel took the keys and unlocked the cage. Hansel got out, and they were very happy. Thank you so much, Gretel. You are a very clever girl, Hansel said. Now let's try to find our way home. Wait, said Gretel. I saw the witch has a lot of treasure. Let's take some with us. And they took some gold coins and precious stones from the house and they set off, trying to go home. It was not easy, but finally they could find a way home. They were very happy. When the stepmother saw them, she made an ugly face. But their father was happy to see them alive. He felt bad for leaving his children and couldn't sleep much. Did Gretel unlock the cage to save Hansel? Yes, she did. She unlocked the cage and Hansel got out. What did they took from the witch before they went home? Some gold coins and precious stones. Was it easy to go home? No, it wasn't. It wasn't easy, but they got home in the end. What did the stepmother do when she saw the children? She made an ugly face. How did the father feel when he saw the children? He was happy when he saw his children.
How can you still live?
Said the stepmother. But the woodcutter yelled at her. You evil women! You tried to kill my good children! Get out of the house now! If I see your face again, I will kill you. The wife was frightened and ran away, never to return. Hansel and Gretel sold to his father the treasure they took from the witch. They became rich and they lived happily together. What did the woodcutter tell the stepmother? He told her to get out of the house. What will happen if the woodcutter sees his wife again? If the woodcutter sees his wife again, He will kill her. Did the wife return to the house again? No, she didn't. She never returned to the house again. Did the father and two children live happily after that? Yes, they did. They became rich and they lived happily together. Hansel and Gretel. The end.